Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Stephanie with Lumeria Star. I feel like I haven't filmed or posted a video in so long. I don't think I posted anything for November, which makes sense because today what we're doing is we're going to take a look at the decks I worked with in November for my November tarot edit, which is just a kind of hashtag I created over on Instagram to kind of like just choose what decks I'm using for the month exclusively. It was a way for me to just, with a large collection, be able to intentionally pick which decks I'm working with for the month, spend some time with them, and also be intentional of like what types of energies I want to work with. So yeah, let's just take a look at the decks I worked with in November. Let's just get into things. So the first deck that I worked with, it doesn't have a box, or I think it originally came in a tin that I kind of just tossed, is the, this is out of print, I believe, right now, so I'm sorry about that. This is Madam Lydia Wilhelmina's Tarot of Monsters, the Macabre, and Autumn Scenes, otherwise known as the Lydia Tarot. That's what I call it. This is a lovely, dark, macabre, and spooky deck. So I really enjoy working with this. Really any part of the darker months of the year, but I tend to just gravitate towards this in November. November in general is when I like to work with my decks that are like dark and spooky and macabre, but aren't necessarily like Halloween or Samhain based. For me, November is not a month I skip towards like Yule energy. I'm still very much in Samhain energy. So all the decks here pretty much for the month, I feel just embody some darker energy. So the Lydia Tarot is absolutely stunning. We've got a lot of like old art. I don't know if this is considered like Renaissance artwork. I don't really know my art history. I mean, I took those classes a very long time ago, so I do not remember. But it's gorgeous, and the creator, which her name is Bethelyn, oh, what's her name here? Bethelyn Bahima. I'm not sure, I'm so sorry. But she basically took pre-existing artwork and collaged it to fit the tarot, which I think is brilliant. So this deck is just awesome. I really do hope she brings it back into print because I know a lot of people are really kind of coveting this deck. It's like spooky without going over the top. It's just subtle. Like for the Fool, we have, you know, a pumpkin head here. We have a lot of masks. Yeah, it's just kind of like this subtle dark energy that I really love. And yeah, I don't know what else to say other than I just absolutely adore this deck. I love taking it out for the darker months of the year. We've got another pumpkin head here. We've got some skulls. It's just so delightful. Everything about this deck is delightful. So yeah, that is my Lydia Tarot. This is always a joy to work with every time I pull it out. And that deck, as always, was a win for me this month for November. Okay, so kind of going along with that, this is an oracle deck that I really love pairing with the Lydia Tarot. And I got like a matching bag here, which is so satisfying to the backs. So this is, for those of you who don't recognize the deck backs, this is the Momento Mory. I have the original deck along with the general expansion pack. That's the only expansion pack I did. There are quite a few though. This is a Claire Goodchild deck. So between the regular deck and the expansion pack, this is a pretty chunky deck. I don't know what to say other than I absolutely adore this deck. It is raw and hard hitting. I mean, we have cards like Amputation Saw. Like this doesn't deliver the message gently necessarily. but it delivers the message you need. And I always really appreciate that about this deck. It's very, very simple. I really don't use the guidebook, like the little pamphlet, much. I really like to go off of just like intuitive hits. And I've found it to be really great with that. It's Victorian, it's macabre, it's got botanicals and flowers in it. And, you know, this alone is a great reader, like just by itself, but I've found it pairs well with so many decks, which to me makes it really versatile. And the more versatile a deck is for me in my collection, the more I tend to, you know, be drawn to it. I grab it more, I use it more, my bond grows more with it. So this is such a versatile deck. If you're even remotely attracted to the artwork, I say go for it, because it's just such a great reader. So yeah, this is always a joy to bring out. I'm a huge fan of Claire Goodchild's work in general. I have most of her decks. I don't have all of them. I think I don't have the other expansion packs, and I don't have, what's the one deck that went mass market? I think it was the Arcana of Astrology. I don't have that one, but I do have her Compendium of Constellations, the indie version. But I just love her art. So that was another big win for me for November. All right, what else do I want to look at? Let's look at this lovely, the Flux Arcana Tarot. This is by Micah Ulrich. I usually pull it out during like Halloween and Samhain time, but this year I just didn't feel called to it. It was screaming November this year. I don't know why. Sometimes I just let the decks tell me when they want to be used. This deck feels very gothic. I love the color palettes of like just black and white with like tiny hints and pops of red. This is just such a beautiful deck. I love the artwork. I love all the skeletons. This paired really nicely. What was I pairing it with? Oh, I'll show you the deck next that I was pairing this with for November. But I just love Micah Ulrich's artwork. I would love to get like a print for my wall. But I have nothing to say other than I love this deck. It's so good. Like even the skeletons can have like a bit of a sense of humor. They're not all like dark and macabre. They have personality. This deck also gives me like a religious kind of feel to it, with a lot of the way the artwork is kind of posed. It feels very like kind of Christian, but not. I love this devil card too. Yeah, this is a lovely, lovely deck to work with. I've been saying I need to edge it, and I don't know if I want to do like just plain black or like a blood red. So I'm not sure. Let me know down below if you have this deck, or just if you have an opinion of how I should edge it. But black or red is really the colors I'm kind of debating. So let me get this back in the tuck box. There we go. So this was another joy to work with, the Flux Arcana Tarot. Okay, so with the Flux Arcana, I was pairing it this month with the Oracle of the Witch, Reclaim Your Birthright. So this is a rock pool deck. You'll see why they paired so well together, which is for a couple of reasons, largely because of the artwork and the color palette. So these are the pretty backs, and we've got this edged in a beautiful, shiny blood red. And I feel with this deck, obviously we matched the color palette of like black, red, and white. This one is definitely more saturated than the Flux Arcana. And it also matched the kind of like ornate borders, which I thought was fun. And the messages together read so well together. So I was really, really enjoying that deck pairing. I hadn't done it before, and I don't know why I didn't think of it. But this deck is a joy to work with. I love the artwork. The artwork is by Mira Nerdianti. Her artwork is so like spooky and macabre and dark, and It feels very powerful. Like, look at this crone card. It's so good. This is another deck that I think is really great for the darker half of the year. It just kind of has that energy to it. It feels very powerful. It feels very potent. The guidebook is good. I do read it, but I tend to just work with the imagery and see what comes through for me. And I found it to be quite intuitive for me personally. Oh, I just love the artwork. It's so good. Like, look at these images. So, so good. So I really, really loved that. And yeah, this is the guidebook. It's you know, nice chunky guidebook, and there is quite a bit of information in here for each card. So again, like I said, I do definitely reference the guidebook, but I've just found this deck personally works really well intuitively. So that was another win for me. Okay, next I worked with the Wanderer's Tarot. So this is the mass market edition. This one is by, oh, I forget the creator's name. I think I kept the little paper. Casey Zabala. So this was originally a indie deck, but this is the mass market. And this deck is really interesting. I find it like kind of hard to read with because it's so minimalistic and simplistic. These are the edges. You'll see why. So it's just strictly black and white, black backgrounds, white illustrations, and they rename the suits. So stones is pentacles. They also rename the courts and like the court cards. And I have a hard time without looking at the little reference, like which one is which. So there's philosopher. And again, so like this is stones. It's so simplistic. Like we don't even have numbers, like numerals. We have like little like tick marks for the numbers. So yeah, like off the bat, it's like hard to read quickly, in my opinion. Here's another renamed court goddess. Like that's obviously knives, or not knives, swords. But it's kind of an interesting deck, but it has a lot of witchy energy in it. Like we literally have like little witch hats. So I think this is Two of Pentacles. That's what that feels like. But it's a deck that, like, if you want to work with it, it really, you have to take your time. And I only like to pull like 1 or 2 max because it's so minimalistic. I just need to sit with it. And this is a deck I prefer to pair with other decks. Like, look again, how minimalist. It's cool, but I have to sit there and go, okay, what am I looking at right now? Like, is this stones? I would think this is 5 of stones, like 5 of pentacles. Feathers is wands. Wanderer is another renamed court card. I think these are moons, and moons are cups, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Prophet of Moons. So it's witchy and it's cool, but like it's definitely not for beginners, in my opinion. But it's a really fun deck to work with. I did just see on Amazon that she had just published a full guidebook with this, and I'm like kind of interested in picking it up because, again, this is so minimalistic. Like I kind of need a guidebook here, so I might want to check that out. Or if anyone has already checked it out, let me know if it's worth it. Like, I don't need a basic guidebook. I'd love to know like the author's and the creator's intent and when she created this. But yeah, I was kind of interested in that, the guidebook, if it would give more context to this deck. So this deck, you know, it's cool and I enjoyed working with it. I really only work with it paired with other decks, and I don't think it's for beginners, but let me know what you all think of this deck, the Wanderer's Tarot. All right, let me take a sip of tea. Okay, so a deck I was pairing with the Wanderer's Tarot is the lovely Todd pack. So this is by Edward Gorey. Oh my gosh, what am I saying? Edward Gorey. And let me open this up. This deck is so irreverent and quirky and strange. I did finally, so it's a very tiny deck. I did finally get around to edging the deck in just a plain like matte black, and I rounded the corners. So for anyone who doesn't know, it comes with plain white edges and the corners were like sharp. And I really didn't like that. So I didn't really use it much. And then I was like, okay, why don't I just fix it so I can use it? So it's the artwork of Edward Gorey, which is very distinct, I guess you could say. And it's almost kind of like a Lenormand in a way, but it's just its own weird, quirky thing. So we have like the urn, the tunnel, the limb, like they're just weird. They're weird, they're strange. They've got like the Edward Gorey artwork. So it's just spooky and macabre. The feather, it's interesting. And this paired really nicely with the Wanderer's Tarot. They just played off of each other. The guidebook is completely irreverent and kind of like just silly. Like, okay, let's say you pulled the waltzing mouse. Like, I'll show you what the guidebook says. It's just like a list of words. May, vertigo, loss of jewelry, a bêtise, morbid cravings, disorders of the large intestine, corruption, equivocal symptoms, a hazardous project, brawls, suicide, involuntary seclusion, shriveling. So like it's really just a very irreverent, kind of useless guidebook, but it's funny. I mean, you could certainly use this. I'm not saying it's useless, but like take this with a grain of salt. It's just like silly and playful. But I think if you want to use it for real divination, like you can like read it intuitively, which is what I was doing. So this is just a really fun deck. I've had this for quite a while. I think I got this back in 2020 on a trip to Maine. I saw this in a little bookshop and I picked it up, and I really haven't used it. And I finally was like, let me make this usable in a way that I want. And it was just such a joy to work with. So I'm really glad I finally got to use the Todd pack. So that was a win. Okay, next deck that I worked with is Tarot of the Sorceress, a Witch's Wheel of the Year. This is also a rock pool deck. This has been through the ringer, and like a couple of my decks that I'm going to show have some wear, which is, I'll tell like a quick story. I'm just super annoyed. I take really good care of my things, like especially my tarot decks. Like they're things that I really cherish and I take care of them. And they're either on bookshelves or baskets, or, you know, everything's pretty organized. And I had baskets in my one closet in my office with decks that I wasn't using at the time. So one of my bins was a lot of like darker season decks all kind of put away. And long story short, this is from a little critter, you know, kind of trying to eat through the box essentially. And I'm like, how do I have this problem? My house is pretty clean. I have a cleaning service that comes in twice a month. I clean. I don't keep, you know, I'm very organized, or pretty organized, I should say. So basically what happened was my old tarot bag, which is the bag I would bring when I did like events and things like that, I had like an emergency protein bar in there, because like if I'm doing an event for like hours and hours and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't eaten, I would have like, I had a peanut butter protein bar in my bag, and I forgot about it. And I guess it fell out of the bag, of my tarot bag, and fell on the floor, and a rodent probably found it, ate through the wrapper, ate the protein bar, the peanut butter protein bar, and then I think assumed, well, everything in this closet must be edible if I eat through the packaging. So a lot of my decks are kind of beat up on the box, and I'm super annoyed. I don't know why I went on that tangent, but I just felt the need to, because like this drives me crazy, and I would never like mistreat my decks like this. So that's all I have to say about that. It's super annoying, and I need to figure out a way to store my decks. Like I probably have to do like Tupperware bins that seal, because I had them in like nice little like wicker baskets that looked pretty, but you know, they're accessible to little critters. So anyway, I digress. Anyway, this is the Tarot of the Sorceress. So this is a rock pool deck. This one was sent to me for review, and I really, really enjoy the fresh take on the tarot that this has. It kind of just does its own thing. So when I do use this deck, I definitely read the guidebook. Highly suggest using the guidebook. The artwork is super cool too. It kind of gives me, it's not the same, but it kind of gives me a little bit of Honasa House's vibes, like the Stunning Tarot and the Honasa House Tarot. The artwork is like not the same, but like just gives me little nods to her artwork. So I really enjoy that. I love the black, white, and gold color palette. This also taps into the Witch's Wheel of the Year. So there's a lot of seasonal energy in this deck, which that's a large part of my personal practice, is just like following the seasons and the Wheel of the Year. So I really, really enjoy this deck, and it's just different. I think I'm someone who has a lot of decks. So when a deck is able to kind of create its own system, I'm in a place now where I'm like, yeah, let's check that out. Let's see what kind of new and fresh take you can kind of give me with the tarot. So this was a really nice deck to play with. It felt like a very November deck. And this also paired really nicely with that very minimalist Wanderer's Tarot. So, because this has so much detail in every card, and the Wanderers is so minimalist, so I felt like they really balanced each other out nicely. So that was also a win. Tarot of the Sorceress. Okay, so another deck that is, I know, a fan favorite, and also the critter got to, which is like so annoying. This was such an expensive deck, and I take care of my things, and like that is so freaking annoying. But I mean, I guess that's what the box is for, because the cards are fine, and the cards are what, you know, make it usable. So it is what it is. It's totally fine. These are the backs. This is the Dark Mansion Tarot. I love this artwork. You know, everyone says it's very Tim Burton-esque, which it is. I haven't reached for this deck in a few years. Like, I got it when it very first came out. I was so excited for it. And then just the past couple years, I just didn't feel called to use it at all, which is totally fine. And this year I was finally like, I'm getting the itch for it. Let's break that out. And it was really nice. I love this devil card so much. She's iconic. She's everything. Yeah, it was just super fun to work with. I think I have to be in the mood for this deck because of the art style. But this month it felt like the vibe. I would love a full guidebook of this deck too. I think that would be really great. I think this would be a really great like storytelling deck, like a world building deck. Like, I want to know more about this world, the Dark Mansion world. So, you know, it'd be really great if, who is this by? I think it's Taroteca Studio. Yeah, it's by Taroteca Studio. It would be so cool if they wrote like a full illustrated guidebook about this world. I would 100% get that book. So that was really fun to kind of reconnect with this deck, the Dark Mansion Tarot. Okay. A fan favorite everyone knows about. Let me take a sip of tea. This is Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle. Like I mentioned before, November for me, I'm still in Samhain energy. So I really don't switch to Yule energy until December 1st. Like, Samhain energy and just Samhain in general is just a holiday, I guess you want to call it, that I just celebrate much more deeply. So it's an energy I like to stick with as long as I can. So this is the mass market edition. You all are probably very familiar with this deck. For the month of October, I always use my indie version of this deck. And then for November, I like to use the mass market. Weirdly, they have different feels. And the indie version has more cards. I believe it has 66 cards. And if you want to see a walkthrough of that, I do have that. I can't remember if it's on my channel or over on my Instagram. I definitely have a walkthrough. I think I actually do have it on my Instagram, or not Instagram, YouTube, on this channel. You can kind of look it up, and I do a side-by-side comparison. But yeah, this deck is so lovely. I also have the matching journal. So for the month of October and November, I was pulling one card and then going to the corresponding journal entry, and I would write every morning. And I didn't get through the whole book yet, or the whole journal yet, but that was a really fun practice that I kept up with for the month of November. At the time I'm filming this, it is early December now. So, you know, I'll put the journal away along with these decks, and then I'll pick it up again next fall. But I just absolutely love the energy of this deck so much. This encapsulates complete Samhain Halloween energy for me. This is what October feels like. And I absolutely adore this deck. I can't say anything more about this deck just because I've already said it all. It's amazing. It's definitely in my top decks ever. That's how much I love this deck and just this whole series. So that's the Seasons of the Witch, Samhain Oracle. All right, we're almost there. Two more decks. So another deck I really love working with in November is the Tarot del Toro. So this is basically a tarot deck based off of Guillermo del Toro's stories. And again, we've got the critters who have gotten in here, and that's so freaking annoying. But we won't focus on that. So this is a mass market deck. This is by Insight Editions. And so this is, yeah, so this whole deck is basically just inspired by just like the world building of Guillermo del Toro. He actually writes the foreword in the guidebook, and then this is illustrated by Tomas Hijo, and it's like that wood block carving artwork, and I love it. I love it so much. It is a pip deck, and I don't even care. I think actually it works really well because of the artwork. Like, it's so ornate, I guess you could say. Like, and the line work is really heavy that like your eye needs some like clean space to focus on. So I think the pips work really well in this deck. The suits are redone. So like pentacles are like these like cogs. We do have cups or vessels. Oh, goblets is what they're called. Goblets. We have knives for swords. And then, oh yeah, discs. They're not cogs, discs. And then what is, I forget what wands are. Let's see. This, look how cool this artwork is. I just love it so much. Blades. Where are the wands? Why haven't I come across? Oh, the wands are like branches, I believe. I think that's what they're called in this deck. Let's see. Can I find a... No, they're called wands. Okay. It's just such an awesome deck. This pair, I like to pair this a lot with the Seasons of the Witch, Samhain Oracle. They just energetically work really well together. So I like to bring those two together, and they kind of tell a story. And yeah, I always just get really solid readings. Look at this, Queen of Blades. Like, so good. So good. It's a dark deck. And if you like Guillermo del Toro, I think you would love this deck. So that is the Tarot del Toro, and it's a fan favorite of mine. And I'll be honest, I don't always love Insight Edition decks. This is one that I did pay for. They do send me a lot of decks to review. I did pay for this one, and I do just adore this deck. So if you even remotely like the artwork, or you like Guillermo del Toro's stories, definitely check this one out. Okay, so the last deck I worked with in November was the Horror Tarot, because, you know, horror is a state of mind, and I don't just keep that energy for October. So I did use this a bit. I probably didn't showcase this one on my Instagram as much. I was using this kind of for personal readings and just kind of getting to know the deck. This is another Insight Editions deck, and this one was sent to me for review, and I really enjoy it. The artwork is by Abigail Larson, who does the Dark Wood Tarot, I believe. That I don't have that one, but I know that's like a big fan favorite in the community. So you might recognize the artwork. I just love this deck. It's spooky, it's dark. The only thing, literally my only gripe with this deck is the titles are so small. They are like gilded too. I don't know if you can see that. So it's kind of hard to read, and it's red on red. But other than that, that's again my only issue. I love this deck. Look at this. For the star, we're using a Ouija board. I think this deck is just really fun, really spooky. I really like the way the guidebook is written too. So again, if you're even remotely drawn to the artwork of Abigail Larson, or if you're maybe a fan of the Dark Wood Tarot, which I know a lot of people love. I don't have it, so I can't speak to it, but I know a lot of people love it. You might like this if you're a horror fan. And this is one I'll probably use all year. Like I watch horror all year, so this is just a fun one to pull out. Kind of just brings out the inner child in me. I don't know, but it's a fun energy. And like I said, the guidebook, I like, even though like it's kind of basic, I like how the guidebook is written. Like they definitely take horror into account when writing the entries. So that's really fun. So this was a win. And just like little details, like I love the inside of this box. Look at that fun print. So that is the Horror Tarot. This is an Insight Editions deck. So these are the decks I worked with in November. Let's see how many I can fit in here. So let me know what you all think of these decks, and leave your comments. Let me know all the things. What was your favorite? What do you use? Do you have any of these decks? Let me move my candle so I don't burn anything. That would be great. And yeah, I'm sorry I'm a little behind on videos. I have some videos coming for December, so don't worry. November was just like, I don't know, November went in like a blink of an eye for me, and I was like, where did that month go? So I really want to intentionally slow down in December and make more time to create content, to focus back on my practice, and just kind of get back to the basics of things that make me feel good and keep me in my routines. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Definitely let me know what your thoughts are on these decks. Definitely leave it in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care, everyone. Bye.